What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So earlier this week, DJI released what I would consider part 2 of the December firmware update for the Mavic 3. So in today's video, we're going to go through each one of the things that they've added. We're going to go through these fairly quickly just because I don't want this video to be crazy long. And some of these features, we've already seen them on previous drones. We're now just getting them on the Mavic 3. So that being said, we're going to go through each one of these settings and just kind of talk a little bit about it, what it does, etc. And then kind of close the video with some final thoughts, weird things that we may have seen during the flights, and etc. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right over to the drone. Okay, so the first one that they've added with this update, again, this is update 0.500. I don't remember the exact numbers before that, but it's the 500 update for the Mavic 3, as well as bringing us to DJI Fly app 1.5.8, if I remember correctly. And in order to use all of these features or gain access to all of these features, you will need to update both the aircraft and also your DJI Fly app. So again, the first one that they've added that we were missing as far as the features go were Quickshots. So they've added Quickshots, they've added panoramic shooting modes. And so if we go on interior to the drone, we were in camera mode. We're actually going to want to swap over to video mode. All right, aircraft is in the air, so if we go back over to Quickshots, same thing we've always had. We've got the droney, we've got rockets, we've got circles, we've got the helix, and we've got the boomerang. And then, of course, various ones of those has different ranges that you can choose when you're shooting that. So if we were to go over to the helix, you can see that we can have it helix from 60 feet all the way up to, I think it's 200. No, it can go all the way up to 380 feet. So basically it's max altitude, legal altitude. The next one that we got, of course, is the panoramics. Like I said, we've seen this before. We've got sphere, we've got 180 degrees, we've got wide angle, we've got vertical. Let's do a quick wide angle and snap some shots here. And it doesn't waste any time taking photos. That's significantly faster than some of the previous drones here. Now, I do see that it's slightly angled. Is that going to be kind of the result in the final image? Let's see what happens here when we stitch the image together. Nope, everything looks good. So if we go to photo mode, yep, there we go. We've got the burst shooting like we've seen before. We can do up to 3, 5, or up to 7 different shots. And that's just going to take a bunch of photos all at once. And that's done there. And then they said that we've added zooming, digital zoom within normal shooting mode. So let's go over to the video. Let's go up a little bit here. And let's kind of look at this like water diversion, this little pond area right here. So just to the left of the little red record button, you've got the binoculars, but right below that, you've got a 1x. So if we tap that, you can see that we've got a 2x punch, which is actually really nice. It doesn't look like it's losing a ton of quality. We are slightly overexposed right now anyway, so if I were to move that to automatic settings, everything looks good there. And then if we punch it again, it goes back to 1 time. So that's definitely nice to have. It is a digital zoom, but those things are nice to have just because if you want to punch in just a little bit. And if I remember correctly, I think you can use, on the RC Pro, I think you can use the scroll wheel to punch in. So let me try to use, yeah, using the left hand, using this one just pivots the gimbal. But if we were to press and hold, yeah, if you press and hold, you can use your finger to slide up and down on the zoom. So if you wanted to slide in or zoom in nice and slow, you've got that option as well. So you remember before on the Mavic Air 2S, I believe is where they introduced this, where we had a color assist, where if we're shooting in D-Log format, we have the ability to toggle on color assist, so we kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like when we do some color correction. So if we were to actually shoot in D-Log, so let me go into my settings here. We go to D-Log. You can see that we've got a color display assist toggle switch right there that we can turn on and off. So if we turn it off, you can see that we are overexposed here. I forgot my ND filters, but you can see that it's very flat. There's no color profile, but if we were to go back into that and turn that on, it adds a slight color profile so we have a better idea of what that's going to look like when we get into post-production. So that's really nice to have too. Mastershots. So if we swap over to Mastershots, we now have the ability to select the resolution from 4K to 60 FPS. There it is. If you're unfamiliar with Mastershots, we saw this again on the Air 2S. this compiles 10 different shots depending on your flight area, and then stitches it all together for a quick video that you guys can post up on a social media platform of your choice. So really cool. If you're an advanced drone pilot, you probably aren't going to use that feature, but it really is nice to have if you want to just zip it up, get something real quick, and then bring it back down. Added quick transfer. We're going to be doing a separate video on this, a full video on how to use quick transfer with the Mavic 3, just because it is there's a few extra steps that you have to go through in order to get it to work, but other than that, it's going to be its own separate video. But that allows you to wirelessly transfer the files on your drone over a Wi-Fi connection when the drone is landed. You cannot do it while it's in flight. It has to be landed, but that will increase its transfer speeds because it'll disconnect from the RC and connect to the drone independently with a stronger Wi-Fi signal in order to transfer those files a little bit quicker. This was one of the caveats that I mentioned in my review, is that we were not able to use D-Log while using the Focustrack system. So any of like the point of interest, spotlight, any of that we couldn't use because we were shooting in D-Log. So if we were to go back to the video mode here, and let's go back into D-Log. I think we're already selected. Yep, we're selected there already. We should now be able to use D-Log at 4K 60 frames and be able to track a subject. So let me select that, and yep, there it is. So we've got the active track, we've got spotlight and POI while we're in D-Log, which is really nice to have because sometimes you just want to use those features. Maybe I want to control it, the flight itself, but remain locked on. So that's really nice to have. Looks like it is still losing a lock. I don't know if that's just the way that it's supposed to be, but it seems like it's holding it pretty well. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. That looks pretty good. It's flying really stable. A really nice circular arc or a circle right there, which is really nice. So that works out really well. So okay, so that worked out great. Set return to home for advanced return to home. We've got added USB mode. If you have a Cine model, then you have the ability to put it into USB mode, which will automatically toggle off during the firmware update. You will need to go back into the settings and turn it on. If you've used it, you're familiar with it, but that allows you to basically turn your drone on, plug it in with the USB. If USB mode is on, the drone, after the boot up sequence, it'll shut itself down, but it will still remain connected to your computer, which is really nice. They've optimized the color correction for accuracy, so they've just gone through and updated the image, made sure that the color correction is more accurate. Kind of self-explanatory there. They increased the image sharpness for the tele camera, and then optimized image area for the time-lapse photos, and then fix some minor bugs. And then we're actually going to look at the UI overall here in just a moment. But let's take a look at the tele camera. This is definitely one of the things that I noticed when we first had the drone is when you would punch in with the Exploremode and the tele camera, it was really bad. Like the image detail, even at like 7 times, was really, really fuzzy. And so hopefully they fix that out. So let's go ahead and, so we're sitting at 1 time, so we punch in. We've got 2 times, pretty much as expected. 3 times. I mean, granted, this is a digital zoom, so we're going to see some degradation as far as the image quality because we're using that digital zoom, but they did in fact update it here. So that's 4 times. You've got 7 times, which I can already tell looks a lot clearer than it did. If you've used the tele camera, you'll know what I'm talking about. 14 times zoom, and then of course we've got 28 times zoom, and it's definitely still fuzzy because again it is a digital zoom, but it does look better than it used to, which is pretty hard to show the difference right now because I don't have any before shots of it. But the biggest thing that I want to talk about now is the overall of the user interface. They went through and they've cleaned this up. If you look up in the top right hand corner, they've done a lot of work with the icons. They're very easy to see. They've almost kind of got a boldness to them, so at a glance you know exactly what you're looking for. The other thing that I noticed is if you turn on subject scanning, you'll notice up at the top right, just to the right of your battery life, you now have like a little radar thing that indicates whether you've got subject scanning on. So just small things like that make it really nice. Now, before we had to go in, if you were to punch into this menu, in order to change from like D-Log and your settings and all these things, it almost as if we were fighting 2 different areas in order to get to the same settings. What they've done now is if you actually go into manual mode, you'll notice now that there's kind of like a little bar between the 2 sets of settings that you can go in and change. And if you just tap on either the left or the right, you get a whole new menu which again is very easy to navigate. You can go in, you can change your white balance, your FPS, where you want your storage, D-Log on or off. You got that color display assist toggle right there, your coding format, your format of the video. But then if you tap on the bottom right of that as well, that goes into your exposure settings. You can change everything on the fly from here. It's very easy to navigate, and you can change your settings very, very quickly. So that to me is probably one of the most favorite things that I love about this update, is just this UI overhaul, because now it's just change your settings and get out, which is really nice. And it doesn't take up the full screen, which is nice too, so you can still kind of see what's going on with the drone, which I absolutely love. And then to get out of it, you just tap on just your main screen and it goes away. And like I said, you can tap on one, tap on the other side, and depending on what side of that divider you tap on, it's going to start with that setting, and then you can always switch over, as you can see. So a very, very awesome update. I love that. Just some final thoughts is, I did notice when there was a fast moving subject that I would select, there was some video freeze. So hopefully that gets addressed, or maybe it was just an issue that I was having. But whenever something was moving like a car, something, you'd select the subject with subject scanning on, the video would lock up for a second, and then it would finally resume after it's kind of processed what it was doing. So that is definitely something. As far as satellite acquisition, depending on the area that you're in, when I was over near my home, it definitely took a long time still to acquire the necessary satellites in order to launch. Now out here towards the lake, it was much faster, but still took some time, so you want to take that into account as well. So like I said in the review, the Mavic 3 review that I had, there were a few setbacks. A lot of these were remedied with some of these features that were added, like the D-Log and all of that kind of thing. So I'm excited to use this drone a little bit more. I think finally we're at the point where the Mavic 3 should be, as far as terms of quality. Yes, I still think DJI screwed up when rushing the drone out in order to get the sales out, but at least we've got the update fairly soon-ish, I guess. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with it. And right now, just the few batteries that I have thrown through this thing, update is solid. If there's any other issues that I end up encountering, I'll definitely leave like a pinned comment on this video. If you guys are having any issues or anything like that, feel free to reach out down below, just so we can kind of get a database of issues that people might be having, things like that. But other than that, I'm excited for this. As always, with updating, make sure that you've got 40% battery on your drone, and always make sure that you've got a solid data connection. This is a very large update, and the last thing you want to do is have an issue with the update and end up bricking your Mavic 3 somehow, some way. So again, that's going to wrap it up for this week's video. I hope you guys liked it. You got something out of it. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, if you have any issues, leave those down below. Yeah, that being said, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.